Mahārāja Kacharya Stotara Satashi Shrimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. We're beginning chapter 41. So we'll start with the summary of the chapter and then continue on to Sloka 1. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma enter Mathurā. This chapter describes how Lord Kṛṣṇa entered the city of Mathurā, killed a washerman, and bestowed benedictions upon a weaver and a garland maker named Sudāmā. After showing his Viṣṇu form to Akrūra in the waters of the Yamunā and receiving Akrūra's prayers, Lord Kṛṣṇa withdrew that vision just as an actor winds up his performance. Akrūra emerged from the water and in great amazement approached the Lord, who asked him whether he had seen something wonderful while bathing. Akrūra replied, "Whatever wonderful things there are in the realms of water, earth, or sky, all have their existence within you. Thus, when one has seen you, nothing remains unseen." Akrūra then began driving the chariot again. Kṛṣṇa, Balarāma, and Akrūra reached Mathurā late in the afternoon. After meeting up with Nanda Mahārāja and the other cowherds who had gone on ahead, Kṛṣṇa asked Akrūra to return home, promising to visit him there after he had killed Kaṁsa. Akrūra unhappily bid the Lord goodbye, went to King Kaṁsa to inform him that Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma had come, and went home. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma took the cowherd boys with them to see the splendorous city. As they all entered Mathurā, the women of the city eagerly came out of their houses to see Kṛṣṇa. They had often heard about him and had long since developed a deep attraction for him. But now that they were actually seeing him, they were overwhelmed with happiness, and all their distress due to his absence was eradicated. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma then came upon Kaṁsa's wicked washerman. Kṛṣṇa asked him for some of the first-class garments he was carrying, but he refused and even chastised the two lords. At this, Kṛṣṇa became very angry and beheaded the man with his fingertips. The washerman's assistants, seeing his untimely end, dropped their bundles of clothes on the spot and ran off in all directions. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma then took some of the garments they especially fancied. Next, a weaver approached the two lords and arrayed them suitably, for which service he received from Kṛṣṇa opulence in this life and liberation in the next. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma then went to the house of a garland maker, Sudāmā. Sudāmā offered them his full obeisances, worshipped them by bathing their feet and offering them such items as arghya and sandalwood paste, and chanted prayers in their honor. Then he adorned them with garlands of fragrant flowers. Pleased, the lords offered him whatever benedictions he wished, and then they moved on. So now we'll chant together Text 1. Shri Sukha Uvacha Stuvatastasya Bhagavan Darshayitva Jale Vapu Bhuyasama Harat Kṛṣṇa Nato Natyam Ivat Manaha. Shri Sukha Uvacha Stuvatastasya Bhagavan Darshayitva Jale Vapu Bhuyasama Harat Kṛṣṇa Nato Natyam Ivat Manaha. Shri Sukha Uvacha Stuvatastasya Bhagavan Darshayitva Jale Vapu Bhuyasama Harat Kṛṣṇa Nato Natyam Ivat Manaha. Shri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadeva Goswami said, Stuvataha, while praying, Tasya, he, Akrūra, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, Darshayitva, having shown, Jale, in the water, Vapu, his personal form, Bhuyaha, again, Samaharat, withdrew, Kṛṣṇa, Sri Kṛṣṇa, Nataha, an actor, Natyam, the performance, Eva, as, Atmanaha, his own. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, while Akrūra was still offering prayers, the Supreme Lord withdrew his form that he had revealed in the water, just as an actor winds up his performance. We can repeat together. Sukadeva Goswami said, while Akrūra was still offering prayers, the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa withdrew his form that he had revealed in the water, just as an actor winds up his performance. Purport. Lord Kṛṣṇa withdrew from Akrūra's sight the Viṣṇu form, along with the vision of the spiritual sky and its eternal inhabitants. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Arigaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, we've been reading how Kṛṣṇa left Vrindavan and the heartbreaking exit when all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the women, the men, the young girls, the cowherds, the cows, the animals, even the wild animals, no one wanted Kṛṣṇa to leave. Why? Because of the fear that he wouldn't come back. Now, when Kṛṣṇa saw that the inhabitants were not willing to allow him to go, especially Mother Yasoda, she went all the way to the edge of Braja to stop Kṛṣṇa from leaving. So Kṛṣṇa made a plan. He told Mother Yasoda that, you go home, I want you to cook for me, and then I'll be back as soon as my work is finished. Shouldn't take more than one day. I'll be back tomorrow. So Mother Yasoda, thinking that now she had something to do for Kṛṣṇa while he was gone, then she returned to the house with her attendants, and she began to cook. Meanwhile, Akrūra saw that this was the time he had to quickly take Kṛṣṇa away before the other inhabitants stopped Kṛṣṇa from leaving. So he took a winding, curved path, different from the path that all of the carts were able to take. They went south, and Akrūra went on this other path. And eventually, by noontime, they started in the morning. By noontime, it was time to chant Gayatri and do puja, the Vedic hymns. So he stopped on the bank of the river, Yamunā, at a place called Brahma-hrada. Now, we've previously heard about Brahma-hrada because when Nanda Mahārāja, after, in Kartik, when Kṛṣṇa stopped Nanda Mahārāja from performing the Indra Puja, and they performed the Govardhan Puja, then for 7 days, Indra tried to kill all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan by inundating with flood, hail, lightning, anything he could, and he was unsuccessful. So that took up to the 9th day. Then on the 10th day, Indra came and apologized, begged his forgiveness, and then the 11th day, Nanda Mahārāja, he observed very strictly the Ekadasi. And as we know, the Parayan, it comes at different times. And before the Parayan, of course, we want to rise, take our bath, and then we can break the fast. So Nanda Mahārāja, he came to the Yamunā after he had fasted all day, and he came too early because there are different times for bathing. For instance, we don't bathe midday in the Yamunā. Nobody goes there at midday. Early in the morning, in the evening. So it was a demoniac time, and Varuna's servants captured him and took him to Varuna. And Nanda Mahārāja's associates, they immediately began to call for Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma entered the water, went to Varuna's abode, and there Nanda Mahārāja saw Varuna offering beautiful prayers just as Akrūra had offered, recognizing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Varuna released Nanda, and the three of them came back to the riverbank, Nanda Mahārāja started to tell his brothers and his other friends what he saw in Varuna Loka, how Varuna was worshipping Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. So the cowherd men, they thought, well, if this is true, which we don't believe anyway, because we know Kṛṣṇa very well, maybe Kṛṣṇa will give us salvation at the end of this life. So Kṛṣṇa, understanding what they were thinking, he brought them to the same Brahma Radha, and he had them immerse in the water, just as Akrūra did, and then he showed them the whole vision of the Vaikuntha Lokas, and he showed them a very special place, their Svagatim, the place where they were going to go, and that was Goloka, Gokula. Now, this secret place, Gokula, it wasn't revealed to Akrūra. Akrūra saw the Vaikuntha planets, with the Vedas worshipping and all of the associates of Mahavishnu offering prayers to him. This Svagatim of the cowherd men, Gokul, it's a secret place. It's the most protected place in the entire spiritual and material creations. It's so protected. You can read in the Brahma Samhita, their tridents, their mantras, in all directions, they're protectors. And what goes on there is the Aprakrit Lila. And what we see in the Bhoma Lila is a portion of those eternal Leelas. Now, Kṛṣṇa was very careful to let the cowherd men understand that you don't have to worry, this is where you're going. You deserve to go to my most secret place because you're my own people, you're my relatives. Here's my father, my mother, my friends, my lovers. You're going there. Now, the vision that Akrūra had when he was standing in the water and chanting his Gayatri mantra, he saw the Vaikuntha majesty of the Lord, because the inhabitants of Mathurā and the inhabitants of Vrindavan have completely different concept of Kṛṣṇa. The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not have a trace, the slightest tinge that Kṛṣṇa is God. You can tell them left, right, center, they won't believe you, they'll defeat you. And that happened when Uddhava came. We'll discuss all of those, how he defeated Uddhava. You think my son is Bhagavan? Now, the inhabitants of Mathurā, they love Kṛṣṇa because they know that he's Bhagavan. It's a completely different concept. Even when Kṛṣṇa entered, we'll read in this chapter, and all the girls, the women who were finally getting to see Kṛṣṇa, they put their clothes on upside down, they forgot to put their eyeliner on one side, everything just like the gopis. But the reason they wanted to see Kṛṣṇa was because he was Bhagavan. And his own mother and father, Devaki and Vasudeva, when Kṛṣṇa, after he killed Kaṁsa, and he went to see them to release them from the prison, they couldn't accept that they put their heads down. They couldn't embrace Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. They didn't know how to behave in front of them because of their Jnana Mishra Bhakti. They knew that Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma were the supreme personalities of Godhead. So Kṛṣṇa had to put his Atma Maya, and then they were able to embrace them both. So this is the difference. And the previous chapter that we just read, the prayers of Akrūra, all of those prayers, and he's famous for these prayers, they're all about the knowledge of Kṛṣṇa being the Supreme Lord. All of the different analogies that he gives, all of the different greatness and majesties that the Supreme Lord possesses, they're all about the Viṣṇu form. Because the Viṣṇu form is worshipped in Mathurā and Dwarka. In Vrindavan, Kṛṣṇa is most perfect. There is his Swayam Rup. Swayam Rup means his original form, two-armed form. his pastime form. How do we enter Vrindavan? How did we all enter Vrindavan? Are we in Vrindavan? Or are we just on the surface of Vrindavan? The way to enter Vrindavan is to have unalloyed, pure love for Kṛṣṇa. That means 24 hours a day. Man mana bhava mad bhakto. This is bhava mad bhakto. Become my devotee and always think of me. When Kṛṣṇa spoke these theoretical mantras to Arjuna, that this is what you should do, all of this, yayatamam prapadyante sarvadharmam parityaja, these three principal slokas that hopefully most of us know, all of this was directly manifested in this 10th canto in Vrindavan. Manmana. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, although Kṛṣṇa was leaving, this is called Mathurā viraha, when he was going to Mathurā, in that separation, they kept Kṛṣṇa tightly in their hearts. And that way, they were able to associate with Kṛṣṇa 24 hours a day by always thinking of him. Wherever they went, Nanda Mahārāja told Uddhava that we have no life anymore. Without Kṛṣṇa, we have no reason to live. I go out of my house has become like a prison to me, because everywhere I look, I remember Kṛṣṇa. So I go out of the house to try to forget Kṛṣṇa, and everywhere I go, I remember, oh, Kṛṣṇa did this here, Kṛṣṇa lifted the Govardhan hill, Kṛṣṇa swam in the Yamunā. I can't stop thinking of Kṛṣṇa for a moment. This is the perfection of bhakti. And Nanda Mahārāja is crying. He's crying because he's in so much pain of separation from Kṛṣṇa. All the inhabitants practically were dead. Now, when Kṛṣṇa finally, we'll read these pastimes in Mathurā, it's only 1 or 2 days that finally Kṛṣṇa, he broke the bow the first day. The second day he killed Kaṁsa and all of his brothers. And then he said, okay, my work is finished. Haribo, I'm going back home. So he went to tell the Yadus, all the different dynasties who finally were freed from Kaṁsa. He went to tell them in the assembly hall. Vasudeva and Devaki weren't in the assembly hall. He said, thank you very much. I've done my duty. I've helped you all. Now Kaṁsa's dead. I've installed Ugrasen as the king. He's from the Bhoja dynasty. No one from the Yadu dynasty can become king because of the curse of Yayati. So Ugrasen, he will remain the king because his son usurped the throne from him. And now I'm going back with Nanda Mahārāja and my cowherd friends. So everyone was silent. You're going back? You've just killed Kaṁsa. Now Kaṁsa, being the most powerful demon, he was protecting us from all the other demons. Now that you've killed Kaṁsa, and all those demons were Kaṁsa's brother-in-law, father-in-law, his closest friends, they will come and they will attack Mathurā, and we'll have no way to protect ourselves. You can't leave us. You are our protector. And because you killed Kaṁsa, then wherever you go, they'll search for you, and they'll try to kill you. If you go back to Braja now, you will be endangering all of the inhabitants there. It was very strong logic. What could Kṛṣṇa do? He didn't want to endanger his beloved Brajabasis. He didn't care that much about Vrindavan. He was just doing that as a duty, but if he goes back to Braja, what will happen? So then he went to Vasudeva and Devaki, and Vasudeva said, you've just come, we've suffered all these years in your absence, 12 years, and you're going to leave us now? Please, you just stay a little longer. You be with us. It's my duty as your father. I have to give you education. I have to get your Gayatri mantra from Gargamuni You have to observe these purificatory activities because you were born in a Kshatriya family. So Kṛṣṇa, he was locked. Then he went to Nanda Mahārāja and to all the cowherd men who came with him. He said, they were crying. Kṛṣṇa said, we want to go home with you. We have no other work here. We did what we were asked to do. We want to go. And then he heard there were messages coming. He said, now 3 days, Mother Yasoda hasn't eaten. Nobody has eaten because you're not there. They're just burning in the fire of separation from you. You have to come back. Kṛṣṇa said, how can I come back? If I come back, then all the demons will come and attack you. So then Nanda Mahārāja said, all right, then we will all come to Mathurā. Kṛṣṇa said, but if you come to Mathurā, you have millions of cows, and they're always populating more and more and more. And in Mathurā, I have to build a fort. Even now, we have the Dig, Bharatpur, all the different gates to the fort are still in Mathurā. So Kṛṣṇa had to build this fort to protect Mathurā. He said, how will I fit all the cows into a fort? It's not possible. No, the best thing to do is, you all go back, and as soon as my work is finished killing all these demons, I promise you I will come back, and I won't leave again. So Nanda Mahārāja, he was forced. He said, Kṛṣṇa told him, he said, you give Mother Yasoda this message. Now, Kṛṣṇa being the Supreme Lord, he knew everything that Mother Yasoda had done during these 3 days. So he hand wrote it. He said, the first day you fed me rice with milk. The second day you fed me roti with ghee. The third day you fed me sweets soaked in milk. But I will not eat unless you eat. Every day you cook for me, you take that offering, bring it to the large room, you serve me, and then I will eat, and then you will eat. So each section, the cowherd boys, the gopis, he sent messages back how they should survive while Kṛṣṇa is performing his duty in Mathurā. He told the cowherd boys that you'll see my spurti because wherever my pastimes were, you'll see me there. And as for the cows, they get knowledge. Most animals are like this, from smelling and from hearing. They can also discern some form. So I want you to take my clothes that are filled with my fragrance, and I want Stoka Kṛṣṇa to dress up as me, and I want Subal to dress up as Balarāma. And you go and sit with the cows, and they will feel that Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, that we're still here with them. Then the gopis, of course, the gopis, he said, your love is so superior, and I cannot reciprocate that love, so therefore I'm hiding from you. So therefore you just constantly remember me. When my work is done, I will come back and never leave you again. So each separate section of the Brijbasis received private messages from Kṛṣṇa that were brought back with Nanda Mahārāja. According to Srila Prabhupada in the Kṛṣṇa book, Prabhupada said that Kṛṣṇa actually did not break his promise. He went back with Nanda Mahārāja. He went back in his Bhava form, his Bhava Roop. Bhava means ecstasy. And he went on, because here we're reading how Kṛṣṇa, he just like an actor in this sloka. When you're in a play, in a drama, the actor has to put on so many different disguises. And even while in that disguise, if a person's son will come up, the son will not recognize the father because the disguise is so good if they're a good actor. But as soon as the play is over, immediately he'll take off his costume and he becomes his real person again. So this display that Kṛṣṇa was giving to Akrūra was just like a performance. It wasn't his real self. And we remember when Lord Brahma, he also offered prayers. Those prayers were in a different mood because Brahma was in Vrindavan. He was allowed to enter Vrindavan. Akrūra is offering these prayers outside of Vrindavan, just at the line of demarcation. And Brahma's prayers were glorifying Krishna's activities within Braj. None of that is present in Akrūra's prayers. They're all Viṣṇu glories. Brahmaji, his prayers were, I see that these inhabitants of Vrindavan are the most fortunate of all of your devotees. I can't even aspire to be on such a level as they. I don't have that kind of love. But I know that getting the dust of their lotus feet, one day I might be able to acquire that love. So you allow me to just become a clump of grass or anything so that I can get the dust from the lotus feet of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This was Lord Brahma's prayers. Now Akrūra, because he was in the mood of Aishvarya mixed with Gyan, he didn't pray to become a blade of grass in Vrindavan. He wanted to take Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma to Mathurā and worship them as the Supreme Personalities of Godhead in their four-handed form. So that's what Kṛṣṇa revealed to him. But Kṛṣṇa wasn't very interested. So the Sanskrit here, they're different. Of course, I don't know Sanskrit, but what's explained is the word tasya is used. Stuvata tasya. So it's an informal way of speaking about a person. It's not formal. So what Kṛṣṇa did was, while Akrūra was still offering his prayers, because he wasn't very interested in the prayers, just as when Kṛṣṇa was holding in the left hand, he was holding his rice and dahi and his achar, waiting for Brahma to finish so he can go back and play with his friends. So all of a sudden, Kṛṣṇa just disappeared the whole thing by his atmana. He just wound up the whole thing. Okay, it's over, let's go. And then when Akrūra saw that everything had just disappeared, he realized here he is spending all this time. He was offering prayers. It took us 2 weeks to get through that whole chapter. It must have taken at least an hour or two for him to offer the prayers. If we read the Sanskrit, someone can do that who knows Sanskrit well. They can read and see how long it takes. So it was really holding up the day. The cowherd men had come from another way. They were waiting in the garden. Where are Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma? Where's Akrūra? And so Akrūra, he had to finish his, what's called the Veda Maryada Dharma. He had to finish his offerings. He didn't have any flowers, he didn't have any incense, so he just offered water and meditated that here's the flowers, here's the incense, got out of the water, and he was still in amazement. His eyes were wide open, and Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, of course, they knew everything. Kṛṣṇa said to him, seeing his eyes wide open like that, he said, "Did you see something astonishing in the water?" And Akrūra, of course, in his mood of Aishvarya and Gyan, he said, "When I see you, my Lord, what else is there to see on the land and the water in the sky but you?" So, a completely different mood. And Kṛṣṇa was just waiting till he could get back home. Then he came, and we'll read here, as we read in the slight introduction, the summary. He met up with Nanda Mahārāja and the cowherd boys and the men. And then that same afternoon, he decided to enter Mathurā. Now, they're cowherd boys. They live in the jungle, and what are their decorations? Flowers, pigments from Govardhan, peacock feathers. So they're very simply dressed. So as they enter and they see the golden gates and all of the diamonds and all of the opulence of Mathurā, and all of the people on the rooftops showering flowers upon them because they understood our Bhagavan has arrived at last. Well, they were just simple cowherd boys. And as they're walking through to see the village, to see the town, the big town, the city, the first thing they see is one of Kaṁsa's servants, the washerman. Now, there's a washerman also in Ram Lila. There's a lot of similarities between the two. So Kṛṣṇa saw the beautiful clothes that he was carrying with his assistants. He said, whose clothes are these? Can you give us some of them? Simple boy, a little boy. And the washerman, he said, who are you? You don't understand. This belongs to Kaṁsa. You think I'm going to give these to you? A jungle boy? What are you going to do with them? You don't even know how to wear them. So what did Kṛṣṇa do? Because all of his senses can do what the work of anyone else does. He just took his fingertips and finished. And all of the attendants, they just ran in all directions. You can see in the old paintings, they got their arms up, they're running everywhere. And Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, they pick out whatever they like, and then they give the rest to their cowherd friends, and they're all dressed up very nicely now. And then walking on more as a weaver, they have a class of weavers in Mathurā, and he immediately sewed up some beautiful things for Kṛṣṇa to wear to make him look even finer. And then Kṛṣṇa knew about Sudāmā. Sudāmā, also there are the different names that are the same, like there's Arjun in Hastinapur Lila, there's Arjun in Vrindavan Lila, so there's Sudāmā also in Mathurā Lila. And this endears these devotees even more to Kṛṣṇa because it helps Kṛṣṇa remember his Vrindavan friends. So he voluntarily went to Sudāma's house. And Sudāmā, being a pure devotee, always meditating on Kṛṣṇa, he offered beautiful prayers and then made beautiful garlands with his assistants. And then Kṛṣṇa told him, well, I'll give you any benediction you want. And he said, you just allow me to do welfare for others so they can all learn about you. Now this is the prayer of a pure devotee. They don't want sarupya, they don't want anything. They want that love for Kṛṣṇa, and they want to be able to share it with all the other suffering living entities. So Kṛṣṇa said, yes, not only will I give you that, but I'll also give you all opulences. So then walking on more and more, we'll read about all these pastimes. But let us try to understand the demarcation place, the difference between the concept of Kṛṣṇa in the Mathuravasis' minds and the concept of Kṛṣṇa as Svayam Rup Sri Kṛṣṇa. When Kṛṣṇa, after he had completed all of the things he had to do, and he was missing Vrindavan so much, he decided to send a personal messenger, that's Uddhava. Now Uddhava, he had come all the way from Dwarka when he heard that Kṛṣṇa was coming to Mathurā. Uddhava, his guru was Brihaspati, he had learned all the Vedas, all the Gyan, he was perfect in Gyan Shastra. He knew nothing about Shuddha Bhakti Prem. And Kṛṣṇa, because they were cousin brothers, Vasudeva had a brother named Devabhaga, and Uddhava was Devabhaga's son. Almost the same age, they looked practically exactly the same, they dressed the same. Even the gopis were astonished, is that Kṛṣṇa, when he came to Vrindavan? So Kṛṣṇa wanted Uddhava to understand what is pure bhakti. Therefore, he devised a plan. Now, I will send Uddhava to Braj to console all of the residents of Vrindavan. At the same time, he will see what pure bhakti actually is, and this will destroy his Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So, Uddhava, when he did come here, he only knew the love of the mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, which is also mixed with this Jnana Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. He thought, how am I going to console Nanda Mahārāja and Yashoda? Just imagine if one's son has just died. How do you console the mother and father? Do you preach to them that why are you lamenting for a temporary body? This is only a temporary relationship. You should make Kṛṣṇa your son. So Uddhava, he couldn't understand what he was supposed to do. He would deliver the message, but when he saw the condition of Nanda Mahārāja and Yashoda, he didn't know how to preach to them, to console them, because they had already made Kṛṣṇa their son, and now Kṛṣṇa had left them. So he decided that if I give them Gyan, because Gyan is like sunlight, and there they were crying, morose, they couldn't get out of their separation from Kṛṣṇa. So Uddhava thought, if I give them Gyan about who Kṛṣṇa actually is, this sunlight of understanding that my son is Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, that'll give them some solace. So he began to praise them, that you're the most fortunate. You have the Supreme Lord, who's the mother and the father of all living entities, as your son. And then he went on to describe to Nanda Mahārāja all of the opulences of the Supreme Lord and how fortunate they were that they were able to serve Bhagavan Sri Kṛṣṇa while he was residing in Vrindavan. And Nanda Mahārāja, he said, what are you talking about? I know who Bhagavan is. I worship Bhagavan. I worship Narayan. I have Shalagram Maharaj in my home. We worship Narayan. We know all about the qualities of Narayan. You think that my son is Narayan? That means you don't know anything. You're just a child. You say that Bhagavan Narayan, he's up the kama, he has no desires. You don't know anything about Kṛṣṇa. He's a milk-fed baby. He's been drinking milk he's still drinking milk. Do you know that in one danda, in 24 minutes, he eats 10 times in one danda. And you say he's fully satisfied? You say that the Supreme Lord is completely truthful? Do you know that Kṛṣṇa is the greatest liar? He cheats, he steals. If he wants something, he'll throw a tantrum. Where is what are you talking about? And you say that we are the most fortunate? Where is our fortune? Kṛṣṇa has just left us. If you tell me that I'm the most unfortunate, then I'll agree with you. But you really, Uddhava, you don't know what you're talking about. You go home. You try to understand who this Kṛṣṇa actually is. Now, who is Kṛṣṇa? Kṛṣṇa, in that Svayam Roop, in that Bhava form, he is always in Vrindavan performing his pastimes. And the residents of Vrindavan, who were suffering so much separation from Kṛṣṇa, they had Kṛṣṇa captured in their hearts. If someone's right in front of you and you're speaking to the person, then in your heart you're afraid. Oh no, when am I going to be separated from this person, if you love the person? But if someone is so far away from you, this Mathurā viraha, then you're keeping that person very tightly in your heart. It's the only way you can associate with him, through the heart. So this bhava form of the Supreme Lord, Kṛṣṇa, and none of them considered Kṛṣṇa to be God. They simply loved him because he was so beautiful, because of the pastimes that they had since childhood with him. They loved him unconditionally. They didn't care who he was, they just loved him. So this is the mood of the Brijbasis, and this is what Kṛṣṇa wanted Uddhava to understand. Why? Why Uddhava? Because when Kṛṣṇa winds up his pastimes in Dwarka, and he gets shot in the heel, and then he decides it's time to go back to the spiritual world, all of the residents of Dwarka were taken away. They all killed each other some way or other. All except for Uddhava. Because Kṛṣṇa wanted Uddhava to stay on the planet Earth to preach. And that's what he did. He was preaching. Now this is very important for us, because for a pure devotee who understands pure love for Kṛṣṇa, it doesn't matter if they're in the spiritual world with Kṛṣṇa or if they're in separation from Kṛṣṇa, here carrying out the mission of the Lord by preaching. This is how the devotee resides always in his mission to uplift the fallen souls. This is the mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in Radha Bhav. He was teaching us the topmost platform of Jugaitam, Nimishena, Chakshusha, Pravishayatam, Sunyayatam, Jagat Sarvam, Govinda Virahename. One yuga, one blink of an eye is like a yuga for us. And I can't stop crying. I'm blind now. Mother Yasoda went blind from crying. And the whole world is vacant without you. Govinda Virahename, the same, Viraha. In the absence of Kṛṣṇa, the devotee keeps Kṛṣṇa tightly within their heart. Mahaprabhu taught this, and then Mahaprabhu, in his Leela, today is the return yatra of Jagannath. He's just spent 1 week in Vrindavan enjoying with his associates out of the glance of Lakshmi Devi and her attendants. Now, on the 5th day, Lakshmi Devi came, made a big ruckus on Hema Panchami, beating up all of the inhabitants of the residents there in Gundicha Mandir, dragging them on the ground. So Krishna is now the 8th day, he's decided, I have to go back. Now, Jagannath, Lord Chaitanya is Kṛṣṇa when he's feeling separation from Kṛṣṇa, because Lord Chaitanya is Kṛṣṇa. In the mood of Radharani, she's feeling separation from Kṛṣṇa. Lord Jagannath is Kṛṣṇa when he's feeling separation from Radharani. So we should never think that only the residents of Vrindavan were experiencing this intense separation. No, Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, they were hugging each other and crying in solitary places. They just wanted to go home and be with their friends and their real mother and father, Yashoda and Nanda. So Jagannath is in that mood of when Kṛṣṇa misses Radharani. He's feeling intense separation for the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So both Kṛṣṇa, he's experiencing in 2 different manifestations, separation from Kṛṣṇa and separation from Radharani and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is the mood of the pure devotees, this vipralamba. And this is what Lord Chaitanya came to teach, and this is what his associates are teaching us. The inhabitants of Vrindavan never try to enjoy sambhog with Kṛṣṇa. They're always immersed in the feelings of separation. And that way they keep Kṛṣṇa tightly in their heart. Ye yatamam prapadyante manmana bhavamadbhakto. This is the instruction of Bhagavad-Gita. Now even Arjuna, after he heard the Bhagavad-Gita from Kṛṣṇa, and who else did Kṛṣṇa speak the Gita to but to Uddhava, his friend? Arjuna was a little proud that I got to hear Bhagavad-Gita personally from Kṛṣṇa. And also not understanding the mood of the Brijbasis. He understood that Kṛṣṇa was the Supreme Lord when he saw the universal form. He asked to see that form. He asked to see the four-armed form. He knew that his friend Kṛṣṇa was also, he happened to be God. So Kṛṣṇa wanted to teach him a lesson. They were wandering because the Yamunā also flows, of course, through Delhi, through Hastinapur and Indraprastha. They were wandering one day on the bank of the Yamunā, and there was a dead body there. And there was a jackal. Jackals eat dead bodies. But he wasn't eating the body, he was just sniffing it. The head, the hands, the legs, the torso. And Arjuna, he said to Kṛṣṇa, look at that foolish jackal. Why isn't he just eating the body? So Kṛṣṇa, he spoke to the jackal. He said, why aren't you eating the body? And the jackal said, well, because Kṛṣṇa could speak all languages. He said, I'm a jackal, I'm an animal. I don't have any knowledge, and I can't perform any pious activities. The only thing I can do is I can see if a person, if he is a Vaishnava, if he has performed any pious activities, I sniff with my nose, because dogs, jackals, they get their knowledge through their nose. If you ever come near a dog, the first thing they'll do is they'll smell you, because that's how they learn who you are. So the jackal said, before I eat anyone, I sniff his head, and I can tell then whether he's bowed down to the Supreme Lord. I sniff his hands to see if he's done any pious activities. I sniff his legs to see if he's gone to any of the places of pilgrimage. I sniff his torso to see if he's ever eaten prasadam. And only in the places where he's performed these devotional activities, those places I eat, because this is how I'll get my benefit, by associating with the Vaishnava, by eating him. Arjuna was completely astounded. I think I'm a devotee? Listen to this jackal. So we have to understand what a real devotee is. It does not always mean, not all of us have the brain substance to memorize many slokas. I had to memorize those 3 slokas before giving class, because how many slokas do I, how many ounces are there? Not so many. It's not by our knowledge that we will enter Vrindavan, real Vrindavan. Now we're just floating. And even to get to this Vrindavan has become so difficult. The guards, the policemen, they're everywhere. No, you can't come in. It's becoming more and more difficult even to enter this Vrindavan. So if we really want to enter Vrindavan, we have to take that mood of the Brijbasis. Forget that Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just love him. And, like Sudāmā, just try to help others learn about him, this pure love. And this is why Kṛṣṇa sent Uddhava here, and this is why Kṛṣṇa sent us here. So we can learn what pure love is by hearing about the pure Vaishnavas who served here in Vrindavan, the 6 Goswamis, their mood, the eternal residents of Vrindavan, and first and foremost, Srila Prabhupada, who is an eternal resident of Vrindavan. Although he traveled all over the world 14 times, although he had to uplift the most fallen of all of the residents on this planet, the meat-eaters, the mlechas, the Yavunas, the dog-eaters, he carried Vrindavan in his heart wherever he went. So not all of us get to stay, none of us get to stay here forever in this lifetime. We all have to go out and preach. Everyone has to preach. That's our mission. We have to assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission to Srila Prabhupada. But we should learn while we're here this mood of the Brijbasis. Take that pure love. Keep Kṛṣṇa and Vrindavan in our heart. Take Vrindavan with us wherever we go. And try to make others fortunate by preaching the glories of Vrindavan to whoever we meet and giving them Prabhupada's books. Because really, Kṛṣṇa book, if you read Kṛṣṇa book, you have the entire 10th canto in its most pure form. There's nothing like the way Srila Prabhupada describes the Kṛṣṇa Leela. We can read, he recommends us right in this chapter, I think it's this chapter, he recommends us, you should read Kṛṣṇa Bhavanamrita, because this is the expansion of the Kṛṣṇa Leela. Now, Kṛṣṇa Bhavanamrita, it's embarrassing to read some of the pastimes. They're so intimate. How Radharani and Kṛṣṇa become intoxicated by drinking honey. They can hardly speak properly. The pastimes are so intimate. But Prabhupada's telling us, read these books so you can, I'm giving you the summary of the 10th canto because I might not be able to complete it in this lifetime. Read this 10th canto. Some disciples of Prabhupada, Varsana Swami, he memorized Kṛṣṇa book. He can speak the entire Kṛṣṇa book. But Prabhupada says, don't stop at the Kṛṣṇa book. Read more, learn more. This is why the Goswamis have given these literatures. So go deeper. Keep this all in your heart. Take it with you wherever you go and make everyone most fortunate. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Kṛṣṇa, pain to his dear ones.
Like Gopis of Vrindavan, different Mathurā days, you would have done that in other ways. What could be the reason? Generally, devotees are suffering. Not everybody, but generally.
It might appear to be pain externally, but actually the devotees are experiencing the topmost ecstasy in those feelings of separation. Krishna is also feeling intense separation and so-called pain, but it's not pain as we experience in the material world, because the so-called pain is actually ecstatic love. So we have to see, according to the way the acharyas explain this separation mood, it's not pain that Krishna is intentionally causing them pain. He is increasing their love by hiding from them. You see, even with the little child, you have any grandchildren? You played peekaboo ever? Peekaboo? You know, peekaboo. You hide, oh, where? And then, there you are. If you don't hide, then there's no excitement when you reappear. It's just part of the human nature. The two things go together. Separation and then enjoyment together.
Thank you. If nobody's question, then I have one more question. You just said that Uddhava came to Vrindavan of Mathurā from Dwarika.
Yes.
We believe that after finishing the Mathura Leela, that Kṛṣṇa has developed Dwarika, or with the Dwarika.
Yes.
So from which Dwarika that Uddhava came to Mathura?
No, Dwarka was still there. That's why he chose to bring everyone to Dwarka. Dwarka was already there. So one night, he just transported them all to Dwarka. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.